We'll start with the prayers. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We are studying Taittriya Bashyam. We are doing the eighth Anuvaka at the moment. In this eighth Anuvaka, there is a Mahavakyam, which tells us that there is one substratum, Adhishtanam, between I, the Jiva, and the world which is experienced by us. All Upanishads, they reveal this fact. Kena Upanishad, Kaivalya Upanishad, Mandukya Upanishad. Whenever we study the Upanishad, we must know what exactly the Upanishad is trying to teach me. Because this is a very unique science. This is a spiritual science. This is a subjective science. Generally, the scientists, they study what is external in the world. That means I am the observer, I am observing the external world. So all scientific study is generally based on the objective world. Vedanta is the only science which deals with the subject I, the seer, the observing principle, the experiencer. So when the Upanishad wants to reveal the experiencer of this world, it brings out a unique methodology. That methodology is called as Adhishtanam and superimposition, Abhyasa. According to the Upanishads, Atma or Brahman is the Adhishtanam. These are Sanskrit words. They have a technical meaning. Atma means, technically, you should know what is Atma. So they have methodology. So we are studying that methodology which reveals the self, which is called as Atma. In the Mahavakyam, it says that the essence behind the Surya Devata, that means the sun god, and the essence behind the Jiva is the same. That means without that consciousness principle, which is the Adhishtanam, which is the substratum for the entire universe, you cannot experience the universe. See, we all want to know what is God, who is God, how did he create the world. So Upanishad has got the secret answer for all these questions. But the secret is revealed in a technical language because normal logic will not be used. The Upanishad has a style. And in this Upanishad, we have seen the Panchakoshas. Panchakoshas means the coverings for the Jiva. Let me go back to the slide where we stopped last week. This is the revision portion, and this is the new volume which I'm taking. And in this volume, we are going to study the second chapter, 8th and 9th Anuvaka. This is the 7th volume. There are totally 8 volumes of notes which has been sent to you by WhatsApp today. So right now we are in the 7th. Today is the beginning of the 7th volume. Here we are going to study the Bhashyam, the commentary on the second chapter, 8th section, the 11th Anuvaka, the 11th mantra. So the 11th and the 12th mantra is what is the balance which is left of the 8th Anuvaka. Then we have the 9th section, which is 2 mantras. So we have roughly another 60 odd pages, slides to cover. And we will see what this Anuvaka deals with. I'm going to revise some portion which we have studied before so that you get the continuity. In this section, which is the 12th section which we are studying, the last section of this, the last mantra of this 8th section, there is a word which is called as Upasamkramanam. Upasamkramanam, the literal meaning of this word means when you are talking about the creator Paramatma and the Jiva, is there what type of relationship exists between them? That is the subject matter we are studying. So once you know the subject matter, then it is easy for us to move forward. Upasamkramanam means the resolution of the Jiva into the Paramatma. This is the final step. This is an abstract topic. How the Jivatma merges with Paramatma is the topic. And it's a very, very abstract topic. So you'll have to go through the methodology which the Upanishad is following. In your own intellect, you should try to understand what is this methodology. See, the literal meaning of Upasamkramanam means traveling and reaching. It involves physical movement, and that is what the Visishta Advaita philosophy, which is a sort of a Dvaita philosophy, where Paramatma is separate, Jivatma is separate. So in that philosophy, it says that Jiva has to travel to Vaikuntha and reach Paramatma, and then he has to serve the Paramatma. This is one type of reaching God. The second meaning, which Shankara takes it here, it is a figurative meaning of Upasamkramanam. Upasamkramanam means it is through Jnanam, I understand that there is no difference between Paramatma and Jiva. This is called as the secondary meaning. And that is what Shankara will explain, how this meaning is perfect for this merger principle between Jivatma and Paramatma. So first Shankara negates the literal meaning and he says there are many defects in the literal meaning. Suppose you say that Jivatma has to travel to some other place and meet Paramatma. That means what? You are accepting that there is a difference between Jivatma and Paramatma. That means it is a Bheda Vada. Bheda means difference. What about Advaitam? Advaitam is Abhedavada. There is no difference between Jivatma and Paramatma. That is the proposition of Shankaracharya. Now, in this other philosophy where you take Paramatma as different, Jivatma as different, but then what will happen? What is the defect? Dukkham or samsara, that means the sorrow which I have, will never go away because there is no freedom for me. Freedom for Jivatma will never be there because always Paramatma will be different than Jiva. At no point will the Jiva says I am Paramatma. This is the major defect which Shankaracharya points out. The second defect is if there is a reaching involved, it is called as karma phalam. Karma phalam is of four types. Any action, the result of action is only of four kinds. Number one, aptihi. Aptihi means by travel you reach a place. I traveled from Singapore to London. This is one type of reaching through action. The second phalam, the second result of action is utpattihi. I have covered this in the previous talk, but I'm just revising it so that you know how the discussion follows. Utpatti means through action, I can produce something. From a clay, I can produce a pot. From gold, I can make a ring. But Paramatma, Jivatma relationship is not like this. The third is vikaraha. Vikaraha means modification. Like a curd, milk modifies to become yogurt. That is another type of result you can get from an action. The last one is purification, samskara. I can polish the gold or the silver plate and make it 100% pure. So purification is another result of action. Now, moksha, freedom, is not apti, utpatti, vikara, or samskara. Because all these four results are anitya. Anitya means they are not eternal. Whatever you produce, it will go away. Wherever you reach, it is not a permanent reaching. There is no modification in the world which is permanent. There is no purification in the world which is permanent. Therefore, Shankaracharya says that freedom from identification with this body is not through action, it is not through karma. I hope you're in line with my thought process because this is a very involved teaching and you have to be very, very attentive. I'm going extremely slow in this area because this is the second last section, and the Upanishad wants us to know how I should realize God. Number one, how I should realize my own higher nature. That is why this topic is very, very important. And Shankaracharya deals with this topic very, very elaborately. I mean, there are 200 slides on only one topic. 200. He has gone into the depth of it. Suppose it is like this, suppose it is like that. What are the problems? So that when we think about our own nature, all the doubts we have about our nature will vanish. That is the beauty of Bhashyam study. Whether it is Taittriya Bashyam, whether it is Mandukya Bashyam, or Prashno Upanishad Bhashyam, all these Bhashyams are very effective in removing our doubts and taking us deeper into the study of Upanishads. So samsara along with the punya papam is basically avidya kalpitam. This is the this is the basis of Shankaracharya's explanation in the next maybe 60 or 70 slides. What he says is that the entire samsara means dukkham, sorrow which we experience. It is a projection ignorance about our real nature. Now, this aspect is quite difficult for us to understand because it's a very vague concept. You will understand. So, even if you have doubts, you have to wait till you finish this topic. After we finish this entire section, then you will get a full picture of what this ignorance is all about. Because we are going to study a very important topic in Vedanta, which is self ignorance. What is this ignorance? We are going to study in very big detail. Suppose we see through our eyes another moon. Actually speaking, if there is no defect, normal eye will see one moon. Suppose there is a eye, it will see two moons. So where does that defect lie? That is the question which Shankaracharya is trying to answer. We will see how he develops this topic. Right now, you just understand the nature of ignorance. What type of ignorance and where does this ignorance lie? Now, in Bhagavad Gita, there is a very important verse. All of you should by heart this verse because anytime you want to know who you are, you should remember this verse. This comes from Kathopanishad. This idea, the same mantra is there in Kathopanishad. It's just a slight difference in one word. Otherwise, it's physically brought in from Kathopanishad to Bhagavad Gita by Vedavyasa. न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचित् नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः अजो नित्य शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणः न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे. Arjuna's problem in Bhagavad Gita was, he said, in this battle, there will be so many people who will be killed. And I will be the killer of those people. So he's identifying with the body as himself and with the others also as the body. Krishna wants to take him from this body level identification to a higher identification, which is Atma identification. Even we are today identified with the body. We also have to lift our nature to a higher self where we see only consciousness. So from consciousness point of view, when you look at a jiva, suppose I look at you and I tell you, you are not born, but you are consciousness principle. You don't have death because consciousness doesn't have birth or death. So you will never cease to be in existent mode because you're always eternal. If you're not the body and your consciousness is not born or it has death. Therefore, I can say you are eternal, you're changeless. Anything which doesn't have birth, that means it is a changeless principle. And it is not something which is now, it is ancient, it has always been there. So Lord Krishna is trying to teach Arjuna, the spiritual being in all of us. For any ajnana vastu means what? For any ignorant object, there is no birth or death. Na jayate, na briyate va. Through knowledge, you come to realize that it is a false appearance. We know this favorite example of rope and rope snake. Now, rope snake does not have origination through ignorance or destruction through knowledge. Suppose I see on the rope, I see a snake. It is a manifestation of something which my mind is doing. So similarly, in the entire world, what is happening is our consciousness is my nature. But I have forgotten this consciousness. And I think I am the body. So what I do, the attributes of the body, which is birth and death, I transfer it on consciousness. Like the attribute of rope snake, I transfer it on rope. So how will you clear this? Only through jnanam. Suppose you bring a torchlight, the guru brings a torchlight and he throws upon the rope snake. And he show you there is no rope snake, it is only a rope. Then what happens to the rope snake? Your ignorance about the rope has gone. And what do you realize? In 3 periods of time, there was never rope snake. Similarly is dream, similarly is mirage water, similarly is the movie on the screen. Snake, which has never come, need not be eliminated by action, but it has to be revealed through knowledge. So in this world, we experience Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara. All these three is like the rope snake. It manifests, it unmanifests. It manifests during the Jagrat and Swapna Avastha. That means the whole world is seen in the waking state and the dream state. Dream world is different, waking world is different. So there are 4 terms which I have used here, Vishwa and Virat, Taijasa and Hiranyagarbha. These are all terms used in Mandukya Upanishad for the dreamer and the dream world, for the waker and the waker's world. Those are all basically nothing but a manifestation. It is a kalpita vastu. Kalpita means it's a projection in the mind. You won't accept it immediately, but go through this entire slides, then you will come to know what is this manifestation. Then what happens in sushupti, in sleep state, what happens? The mind drops this. The mind drops this projection and rests. When the mind drops the projection, it is called as unmanifest state, which is called as prajna or Ishvara. So understanding the 5 koshas or the 3 sharirams and the 3 avasthas is our spiritual journey to our own self. In Taittriya Upanishad, the travel is from the 5 koshas. Where does the jiva end? Suppose I have learned, drop the annamaya kosha, pranamaya kosha, manomaya kosha. Where does the jiva end? That is the topic here. The topic is that the jiva, which is identified with the koshas, realizes I am the Atma behind the 5 koshas. And what happens to the koshas then? The koshas are defined as mithya. They appear, they do not originate if you have knowledge about your real nature. Now, what is the definition of mithya? Many times in Upanishadic and in Gita talks, you will find the word mithya. What is the definition? Mithya means it does not originate or die, but which temporarily appears. It is like a magic show. In Dakshinamurti Stotram, the first verse of Dakshinamurti says, Vishwan Darpana Drishyamana Nagari. Like you see a city in a mirror, similarly, you see the whole waking state in the mirror of your mind. And it is only a temporary appearance. That is what is called as mithya. Mithya doesn't mean non-existence. Mithya doesn't mean existence. It only means in between existent and non-existence, there is one category which Advaitin calls it as mithya. So when you attach yourself to Atma, you can proudly say what Mandukya Upanishad says in two verses. In the second chapter, 32nd verse, it says, at any point there has been no dissolution or birth. There has been nobody in bondage, nobody in becomes free. This alone is the supreme truth. If this is the truth, then why I don't know this truth? Because I never inquired into the nature of this body. Upanishad helps me to understand the nature of the body and it explains to me the nature of consciousness. The 48th verse of the third chapter says that the egocentric jiva thinks that he is separate and he is born. But what is the truth? The truth is he is not the body, but he is the ultimate Brahman, which is nothing, which is never born. Brahman here means consciousness. So, mithya is never born or does it never die? Very important point when you are trying to understand your own nature. So, Purva Bakshi, the opponent, has got this question where Shankaracharya explains to him that there is no birth or death for the jiva. The jiva originally is Paramatma, but he has got the ignorance that he is not the Paramatma. Paramatma means what? He is the creator of this universe. In Bhagavad Gita, the 13th chapter, the second verse is very, very important. Idam shariram kaunteya kshetramitya vidhiyate etat yo veti tam ta prahuhu kshetrajnamiti tatvidaha. This jiva is called as kshetram, kshetrajna, and he is in the kshetra. Kshetrajna is the experiencer. Experiencer is a consciousness principle. Kshetram is the body. Kshetram is the world, which is inert by nature. So I should separate this consciousness from the inert body, mind, and the world. This only Vedanta teaches you how to do it. Tattva Bodha clearly defines the body as inert. The mind is made up of subtle elements which are inert. The causal body is also ignorance. So the only thing which experiences the world is consciousness, and I must know I am that consciousness. Now, next, Shankaracharya takes another topic for discussion regarding this Atma Paramatma Sambandha relationship. He says, this ignorance about my nature as Atma, and later on I have the knowledge that I am the Atma through the study of Taittiriya Upanishad. Now, the question is, ignorance and the knowledge, do they belong to the Anat mind, body, or to the Atma? If that is the question in your mind, Shankaracharya says, I will give you the answer to that. So, first of all, you should know that mithya means it is kalpayate. Kalpayate means it is not non existent or not existent. What is existent? Atma is ever existent. Brahman is ever existent. There is no death or birth for Atma. What is non existent? Non existent is like the flowers in the sky or a rabbit's horn. These are never, I've never seen it. So they are non existent. This ignorance and knowledge, where, where does it come? Is it in the existent category? Is it in the non existent category? Or is it in between the mithya category? This ignorance and knowledge, this is a very, very important topic. And it's a very subtle topic. So just pay attention as to what, you see, and you have to understand you have this ignorance. Each one of us has to go through this process of removing the self ignorance. In order to remove that self ignorance, this topic is being discussed by Shankaracharya in a very big detail in Taittiriya Upanishad and also in other Upanishads. This type of discussion you will only get in Bhashyam. Only in commentary of Shankaracharya you'll get this type of discussions. That is the value of studying the Bhashyam. So the question is, ignorance, is it in Atma or is it in Anatma? If it is an Atma, it is Atma is a sentient principle. Mula Vidya is located in Atma only. That is, if you take Atma category. If you take Anatma, that avidya, ignorance, exists in Anatma, that means it exists in the Prapancha. But Prapancha is a product of avidya. Avidya exists before the arrival of Anatma, before the arrival of body mind complex. I have ignorance of this world. What is this world I'm going to see, which is being projected? So Shankaracharya now is going into the depth of the study of the topic of ignorance. Naishkarma Siddhi is a very, 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 very important text for advanced seekers who want to study on their own something a little bit more about Atma, Anatma, uh, and all that, and especially when it comes to ignorance, this chapter 3 of Naishkarmya Siddhi, the first verse, deals with ignorance. So I have brought that here just to give you a glimpse for you, just to give you a glimpse how deep is the study of ignorance. Now, I am not going to go to the depth of this analysis of this paragraph, which I would like you all to do it at your own free time. But what, just to give you a gist of where this ignorance, how Shankaracharya analyzes this ignorance, I will touch upon it little later in this explanation. But I will give you my own gist of this entire paragraph. You can read the paragraph on your own after you have listened to me, because then you would understand this paragraph easily. Otherwise, understanding this paragraph is extremely difficult. It takes 10 sessions, 10 talks to explain this one verse in Naishkaranya Siddhi for an advanced seeker. In short, I will explain to you what this topic here is about ignorance. Ignorance, for ignorance, what is the locus and what is the content of ignorance? These are the two questions we have to answer about ignorance. See how ignorance is taken as a topic and how our saints have analyzed this. So in ignorance, if you take the locus, what is the locus of ignorance? It cannot be anatma. Anatma means it cannot be the body. Body cannot be the locus of ignorance. Because body is inert. It can never get knowledge. Body is a product of ignorance. Similarly, mind is a product of ignorance. It cannot be the locus. Mind, body, or the world. World cannot be the locus of ignorance because it is distinctly different than me. So ignorance is not the locus, and the content of ignorance. The content of ignorance cannot be anatma also. Anatma cannot be the content of ignorance because, okay, I don't know the body, mind, but will I get moksha by knowing the body, mind, or the world? No. How will I get moksha? I will get moksha when I know my own nature, not the nature of the body, or the world, or the mind. Therefore, Shankaracharya brilliantly, Totakacharya, you see this uh, this analysis of ignorance beautifully Shankaracharya makes and he brings it to the Taittriya Bashyam. So, two things about ignorance. What locus, what is the content? Now, let us look at the other side. Can the ignorance remain in Atma? Is the question. I am ignorant, conscious of my nature. I am ignorant is possible if consciousness is the locus of ignorance. What is ignorance? Ignorance is a vritti of the mind. The self is independent of ignorance. Self is Atma. So ignorance cannot be in the Atma. So the locus of ignorance is again not Atma. The content of ignorance is Atma. That we all know. That the content means what? I don't know myself. Self is the content of ignorance. So, two things we should understand. The content of ignorance is I don't know my real nature, which is Atma, but this it cannot be in Atma because Atma by itself is never ignorant or does it ever get knowledge. Now, with this background of this paragraph, now let us study the slides. So, ignorance is before jnanam, Ignorance goes away after jnana. This is quite clear. The ignorance about my nature as Atma, it is there. For example, all of us are ignorant about I am Atma. Through the study, what happens? I learn. Slowly, I learn that the Pancha Koshas I have to drop. What remains after dropping the Pancha Koshas is Atma. That is what Upanishad teaches me. Once I have known I am Atma, I don't have a body, I don't have a mind, I don't have Jagrat Avastha, I don't have Sushupti Avastha, I don't have Swapna Avastha. These all belong to the body or to the mind. Then what happens? The presence or disappearance of this avidya, ignorance, happens in the Atma. If this is the case, then the Purva Pakshi will say, comes back and says, yes, okay, now you are admitting it is there, the locus is Atma. If the locus is Atma, what happens? Atma will undergo a transformation. Therefore, Atma will become Anityam. Avidya, if it is an attribute of Atma, this ignorance, if it is an attribute of Atma, then Atma will become Anityam. That is what the opponent will come and say. If you understand the question, then you will understand the answer very well. Okay. Now, Shankaracharya gives an answer to this Purvapakshi. The question is what? The doubt is what? Does the ignorance, is it an attribute of Atma or is it just an appearance on earth? Atma has no effect. Avidya is mithya in nature. Like the body and mind is taken as mithya, avidya is also mithya. The presence and disappearance of this mithya ignorance does not affect Atma at all because Atma is the adhishtanam. Like the presence of the movie characters in the TV screen does not affect the TV screen. The presence of dream world does not affect the waker. The waker can easily shake off the dream. Similarly, the mithya avidya appears in Atma like any other anatma. That is what Shankaracharya is giving an answer here. Kshetrajna means I am the experiencer. Atma is the experiencer of the world. But this is so in the first answer, so I have given you one answer. One answer is what? Avidya is mithya. Mithya means it is like any other object in the world. Ignorance is also related to the prapancha. The prapancha is mithya, therefore ignorance is mithya. That is one answer given by Shankaracharya. The second answer is much more interesting. He says, avidya, ignorance, exists in the mind. It is objectified by Atma. It exists in the antakaranam. Ignorance exists in the antakaranam, which is the mind of the jiva. So Shankaracharya says, if it is in the Atma, you can never know it because knowledge and ignorance cannot remain in the same locus. But we all have the experience that I know something, I don't know something. For example, I know my house is here, but I don't know Sanskrit language. I don't know Japanese. So if you know and you don't know, the ignorance of something and the knowledge of something is objectified by someone in this body. So it is the dosha of the karanam, the instrument which the jiva uses. That instrument has got knowledge. That instrument called as the mind has got ignorance. So it is a dosha which belongs to the karanam. See how beautifully this analysis takes place. Very beautiful analysis. This too, you can contemplate, you can study this again at your free time. You'll see the relevance of this in your own self. Suppose you say, I am Atma. Do I have ignorance about myself? No. But I should have perfect knowledge about Atma. Then only the ignorance will go away. So here again, the same verse which I have quoted is there. Doshas belong to the indriyas, jnanendriyas or karma indriyas or antakaranam. The Timira dosha means what? Seeing the two moons. That dosha belongs to the eyes. It does not belong to the mind or atma. So any dosha which obstructs the knowledge does not belong to the consciousness principle, but it belongs to the karanam. It belongs to the antakaranam or jnana indriyas or karma indriyas. So avidya is a dosha belonging to the antakaranam. Okay, so far you have understood very good. Now the next slide explains go a little bit more deeper. So now you have understood what ignorance, which is avidya, and knowledge, which is vidya, they are not the attributes of Atma because they are experienced or known directly by the Sakshi or Atma. Knowledge or ignorance is like a form or a color or a sound. I hear the sound, I have the knowledge of the sound. Similarly, I don't hear the sound, I have the ignorance of the sound. So similarly, all ignorance and knowledge belongs to the antakaranam or belongs to the indriyas. So they don't have the status of being the attribute of experiencer. That means the form and color does not belong to it is not the attribute of Atma. It is the attribute of the eyes or the objects or the antakaranam. That's what Shankaracharya is taking us now deeper. See how he analyzes dharma, adharma, the seer, the attribute of the seer, the attribute of the antakaranam. All see how deep we are going. So ignorance is experienced by oneself, and everybody says, I am either ignorant or confused, or my knowledge is not clear, I'm mixed up. All this is what? It is the Sakshi, the Atma, which is there in this body. That is what is observing the mind and all these confusions about the world. So what do I have to do now? Remove the ignorance which belongs to the mind. Take it as a part of the ignorance about the world, which is anatma. Drop it as mithya. Ignorance also is mithya. Knowledge is also mithya. But beyond ignorance and knowledge, beyond viveka and aviviveka. Knowledge is viveka. Ignorance is tamas. Aviviveka. I don't know the difference between Atma and Anatma. That is Aviviveka. I have a clear knowledge about Atma, which is attributeless consciousness. So both are Sakshi Pratyaksham. They belong to the Antakaranam only. Both means what? Ignorance and knowledge. They belong to the Antakaranam, which is the mind, intellect, instrument, which a jiva uses during the waking state. In the sleep state, what does he do? He drops his mind. He drops the jnana indriyas. He drops the karma indriyas. He rests in the Atma. That Atma where he rests is pure in nature, attributeless in nature. He is always that. That is what he comes to realize, that I am that pure consciousness, which is free from this dosha called as ignorance. So aham jnani or aham mudaha, who knows? It is the sakshi which knows I am a wise person or I am an ignorant person. Okay. Now the next slide of Shankaracharya, his commentary. When a wise person imparts this knowledge to the students, he knows that he understands what is Atma. And he also knows that the students who are learning this Atma, they don't know Atma. When they come to know Atma, their ignorance is gone. This is also experienced by the Guru and Sishya. Therefore, what? I experience my jnanam, you experience your jnanam. I experience no ignorance about Atma, but you experience ignorance about Atma because you don't know. I can teach you what is Atma, how to realize that Atma. Suppose you learn, I have learned through Taittriya Upanishad or Mandukya Upanishad clearly, without any doubts. I have known I am not the Panchakoshas, I am the Atma behind the Panchakoshas. Suppose you realize this, then your mind has dropped the ignorance. That is what Shankaracharya is saying in this paragraph. The teacher knows what is Sakshi Tattvam. Sakshi is beyond knowledge, which is Sattva Guna, beyond ignorance, which is Tamo Guna. The gunas belong to the world which is Anatma. Therefore, Shankaracharya says, ignorance and knowledge both belong to the Anatma world only. It belongs to the Vyavaharika Satyam only. But what is the Paramarthika Satyam? I am beyond this knowledge and ignorance, which is an attribute of the mind, Antakaranam. That is what the teacher knows. That is what is called as Atmajanam, which he transfers to the student. Now, the student initially is ignorant. Then, after the teacher teaches him, drop the five koshas. Five koshas are only Anatma, Prapancha, world. It is only the five elements in different modifications. Mind is nothing but subtle element with modifications. Thought is nothing but subtle element. It is inert in nature. But the observer of the thought, is he inert or is he conscious? He is consciousness. So this way, the student realizes, oh my God, why did I take myself to be the mind and suffer so many years? 60, 70 years I suffered because I was thinking I am the mind. Mind is only an instrument. It is only an object for Sakshi. The student, the moment he knows the mind is an instrument come object, immediately he will realize that he is the pure consciousness. It is very beautifully said in Mandukya Upanishad and in Prashna Upanishad. These two Upanishads you must study, especially the fourth chapter of Prashnopanishad, Mandukya, all the uh, four chapters of Mandukya. Very beautiful analysis of Shankaracharya exists, and also here in Taittiriya Upanishad. See how deep he is going here. The moment I know that ignorance is not an attribute of Atma, it is the attribute of Antakaranam. I am a jnani, not because I have got gray hair, not because I have studied Prasthana Trayam, but because I know I am the consciousness. What is the proof that you have become a jnani? Here you can see what is the proof. Suppose you realize I am not the body, mind, intellect anymore from today. Keep it aside. That is anatma. It is part of the world. World does not exist in atma. World exists, it appears, disappears, appears, disappears, appears, disappears. World means including my body, mind, and all the objects in the creation. And what do I feel? I am Atma. I am Atma means then what will you say? I am free. I am free means what? I am no more taking the body mind as me, but I am taking the Atma, the consciousness as me. This ignorance and knowledge are Sakshi Pratyaksham. It is the Sakshi which becomes aware of the thoughts in the mind. Ignorance and knowledge are vrittis. They are nama rupa. They are drishyam. They are dvaita prapancha. They are anatma. All these things you should understand, and you should realize this in your own self. So antakaranam is nama rupa. All nama rupas are anatma. They do not belong to atma. This is the conclusion of a student after he has understood what is the locus of ignorance, what is the content of ignorance. The content of ignorance is Atma is the content. The knowledge I don't have, I am ignorant about the consciousness independently existing Atma principle is the content of ignorance. So today in our study, we have learned a very important thing. All of us, you have ignorance about consciousness or Atma. Ignorance, the locus of the ignorance is the antakaranam, the mind instrument. It is not, ignorance is not located in Atma. That is step number one, point number one. Step number two, or point number two of our study today is the content is Atma. I am the Atma. I am always conscious. This ignorance and knowledge is about the self, but it exists in Anatma mind. In Chandogya Upanishad, very beautifully, this mantra comes. That which is described as space manifests names and forms. In Chandogya, this is the most important sentence of this mantra. Eighth chapter, which is an analysis of the three states. Like Mandukya Upanishad, the three states are analyzed in Chandogya Upanishad in the eighth chapter. Prajapati Vidya. Seventh chapter is Bhuma Vidya. And the sixth chapter is Sat Vidya. All the three chapters deal with Vedanta in Chandogya, 6, 7, and 8. Now, here he says that the space manifests and it manifests all the names and forms. Names and forms means what? Sthula Shariram, Sukshma Shariram, Karana Shariram, all of them they exist in space. But the space is within Brahman. It is within consciousness. And in consciousness, the space becomes unmanifest. Therefore, Brahman is immortal. And that Brahman is the self. This is the teaching of the creator, Prajapati. If you have this knowledge, what happens? You will never be born again with a body. That is the phalam. That is the fruit of study. So similarly, if I you see, look how deep is this one mantra. You see, we all experience the unmanifestation of the world. All of us we manifest. In the sleep state, the world is unmanifest. But that unmanifest locus, it exists where? It exists in consciousness. So Akasha, this is how Taitriya Upanishad in the second chapter, which we are studying now, the first mantra, the second mantra says, from that Brahman or Atma only space was born. In Chandogya also, it says the same thing. That space is born from Atma or Brahman. So ultimately, how do I look at myself if I am that Chaitanyam, if I am that consciousness principle? How do I look at myself then? What will the vision of a jnani? The vision of the jnani is I am the creator, projector of this entire Nama Rupa Prapancha. This Nama Rupa Prapancha is superimposed on the Adhishthanam Atma. How? Like the entire dream world, all the dream experiences is where it is superimposed on the waker. So when you wake up from the dream, what is the waking up? What does it mean? You have got the knowledge of the waker. By the waker's knowledge, what have you understood? Dream is mithya. Now the Upanishad says you wake up from the waking world, wake up to the knowledge that you are Atma, in which there is no body, there is no Jagrata Avastha, there is no Swapna, Sushupti for Atma. Atma is ever self-conscious. It is aware, it is self-effulgent always. Because it is self-effulgent always, we say that it is nityaha. It is modification less. It is attribute less. So this jnani becomes Brahmanishta, and then he says this Jagat, which is experience, is not an attribute of this consciousness, which is called as Brahman. It is an independently existing principle, Nitya principle. For example, if you take the earth as a reference point, you will say, I experience day when the sun is shining on the earth, and I am experiencing night when the sun is away from the earth. This everybody experiences. Similarly, if you say that I am the waker I don't know about Atma. I have ignorance about Atma. It is like the night. Suppose you become a jnani and you say, I am the consciousness which illumines the waking state. You become a jnani. You become like the sun. So your reference point changes. When your reference point is Surya, from the Surya standpoint, is there a day or a night? No. From the Surya point, it is always bright, self effulgent. There is no day, there is no night. In Surya, there is no day and night. On the earth, there is day and night. For an Ajnani, there is a day and night. For a Jnani, he knows I have become like the sun. I have become the illuminator of this entire world of waking, dream, sleep. So wherever a jnani goes, there is no ajnanam in him. There is no darkness or tamas. That is why in the second chapter, there's a very beautiful verse in 69th verse of the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Ya nisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagrati sanyami yasyayam yasyayam jagrita bhutani sa nisha pashyate munehe. That which is night to the beings, for the jnani, it is day. For the beings, when it is day, it is the night for the jnani. See how beautifully Bhagavad Gita explains the jnani and ajnani in one fantastic verse. Second chapter, 69th verse. Second chapter is the most beautiful chapter in Bhagavad Gita because it gives you a lot of this knowledge about Atma in a very subtle way. But you need a very good guru to understand this second chapter. See here, for a jnani who knows Atma, there is neither day, neither night. He is always self-effulgent Atma, like being in the sun. There is no darkness. There is no, he is gone beyond sattva, rajas, and tamas. Trigunatmika maya. Guna atita jnani. This is the description of the jnani who is gunatitam, who is in turiya avastha. He knows Turiyam very well. Turiyam means it is that Mandukya Upanishad, which we'll study tomorrow. So, the three gunas have no impact on the jnani, but they have an impact on the ajnani. So, what have we discussed so far? The two answers are, I'm again repeating because this is a slightly abstract topic, which is self-ignorance. And I've put a lot of slides here just for making it more and more clear to you. So, avidya is not located in Atma, it is Mithya, it belongs to the world. That is Naishkarmya Siddhi approach. Avidya is object of Atma. That is Shankaracharya's method of understanding what is avidya. The second method of understanding avidya as object of antakaranam is easier. Now, Vedantin is not bothered about the location of avidya, whether it is an atma or an antakaranam, because ultimately he says he has to drop this avidya. If I have to drop, I don't care whether it is where it is. I have to just drop it. For example, if you have a book which belongs to somebody and it is going to be taken by that person tomorrow, you can keep it anywhere. It doesn't matter. I keep it in the on the desk. I keep it on the ground. I keep it in a bag because anyway it's going to go off tomorrow. Suppose the book belongs to me, then I will be the location becomes important. So avidya is like the book which has to be dropped by and it has to be taken off from you. Okay, so Therefore, location is not important for avidya. Location is only a temporary status given to avidya. Okay. Now the next paragraph of Shankaracharya to go a little bit further on this avidya topic. What is the vision of the Shastra? Is Bheda the difference, or Abheda is is what Shastra teaches with reference to Atma and Brahman? Okay, so that is the topic which Shankaracharya is discussing now. If Bheda is there, what is the result? If Abheda is there, what is the result? Okay. Naishkarmya Siddhi, in the third chapter, it says, I am Brahman. You are that Brahman. By knowing I and mine, notions are dropped, and that is the path to moksha. So, if ignorance is the nature of anatma, we can never get knowledge at any time. So, ignorance doesn't have anatma as its content or the locus. Locus is always the self. The content of ignorance is also the self. I've already covered this portion. Has gone Avidya, the two answers I've already covered. You can go through it. How do you know that you are how do you know I am not a jnani? I feel I am not the body, mind, intellect anymore, but I am different from them and I exist separate from them. So suppose you want to know that you are a jnani, then how should you feel about yourself? The way you should think is I exist independently without body, mind, and the world. All of us have the anubhava. We have the experience, but we are not able to shake off that ignorance. What is the ignorance? Ignorance is I am the body. Today I have the wrong notion that I am the body and I am the mind and I am experiencing the world. So you have to drop this ignorance of the Atma, drop the ignorance about the wrong notion you have about yourself, and claim, like how in Chandogya Upanishad we claim that all the forms and the names belong are in the space, and space belongs to Atma. Like the waker is the adhishtanam of the dream, Brahman is the adhishtanam of the waker. Very important point. It's a very easy to understand when you compare dream and waking. Because when it comes to a dream, we can easily say I am the waker is the adhisthana. Adhisthana means what? Substratum. Without the waker, there is no dream. This statement all of you will agree. Now I am making another statement. Without Atma, there is no waking. And you are Atma. Jagat, world, is not an intrinsic attribute of Atma. That is what you should claim as your Swarupa. Okay? So, three gunas do not have any impact on a jnani, but they all have impact on the ajnani. Dakshinamurti Stotram, this particular mantra here, Nana Chitra Gato Darastita Mahadeepa Prabhavaswaram, this explains to us the concept of pure consciousness, how it comes out through the jnana indriyas and we experience the world. This is a very beautiful mantra of Dakshinamurti Stotra. It explains to us that like you have in a lamp, suppose you have a lamp and you cover it with some covering. You put a pot with five holes. So through the pot, inside the pot, there is a lamp. The light in the dark room, you can see the five beams. So the five beams are exactly like the five sense organs. The five sense objects are known because of the five beams which are coming from the body. But who is the one which illumines that beam? It is the consciousness. That is what is said in Dakshinamurti Stotram. Very beautiful to understand consciousness. So the same principle, Taittiriya Upanishad also talks, which we are doing. This is an analysis of this mantra, the 12th mantra of the 8th section. This is the Mahavakyam which you are analyzing. That there is one substratum between the Surya Devata and the Jiva in this body. Now, what Shankaracharya is analyzing is the Jiva and is the Jivatma and Paramatma, are they different? If they are different, what happens? Then you can never get moksha. Because they will always be. This is the problem with the Dvaitins. That Dvaitins will say always there is difference in the world. I am the subject, the world is an object of for the subject. So in Dvaitam, you can never have moksha. If it is Abheda Paksha, Abheda means what? There is no difference, both are the same. Then the question will be, why should I merge? If I know that if I am the Jivatma is Paramatma, how come I don't know that? That is where you come to Vedanta. You don't know that ignorance about you are the Adhishtanam for the entire universe. That ignorance is there. Therefore, you come to the teacher and learn about your true nature. So, Jivatma reaches Paramatma is not a literal thing, but it is only figurative. The reacher is Jivatma and the reached is Paramatma. Both can't be the same. Advaita message of Upakrama is explained now. It's a very important to study this portion of Upakrama, Upasamkramanam. Now Shankaracharya explains this topic about Upasamkramanam, that means the merger of Jivatma with Paramatma through knowledge. How does it take place? Why it is not reaching? Why it is a knowing principle? So here in this paragraph, Shankaracharya says, Sankramanam means knowledge. Sankramanam does not mean reaching through karma. It is not like a leech, jaluka. I will explain to you what is a jaluka. A jaluka is like a worm-like caterpillar, you know. So here in this paragraph, Shankaracharya says that Jnani doesn't go to Vaikuntha or become or transforms into anything. Very important point, huh? In Vedanta, this is the problem. This is what many people think, that I have to go to some heaven and then realize who God is and who is the creator of the world and all that. But Vedanta is very easy. It says that there's no travel anywhere. Right now, you know your nature as pure consciousness, and you will have all the questions answered about the world, about the Jiva who is experiencing the world. What is the world? What is the Jiva? What is Ishvara? All that questions is answered here and now when you study Vedanta. Samkramatva is knowledge, is clear intellectual understanding. Upasamkramanam. Sankramanam means getting the knowledge that you're always this consciousness principle. It is not like a caterpillar or a worm like caterpillar. It's called a leech, which moves from leaf to leaf. How does it move from one leaf to another? First, it will place the head first in the other leaf, and then it raises the leg from the old leaf, and then it will jump to the other leaf. So this is what is called. This is an example given by Shankaracharya. It is not that the leech is doing a Surya Namaskara of crossing over from one leaf to another leaf. Jivatma and Paramatma are not like this leech. Sometimes it is said in Bhakti Shastra, it says that if you take one step, Bhagavan will take 20 steps and you will reach Bhagavan. What we have to understand is bhakti is important as a stepping stone, but jnanam about the nature of Paramatma is the ultimate which you have to gain. That knowledge you will get only from Vedanta, only from Upanishadic study. Dvaita Bhakti, without Dvaita Bhakti, Advaita Bhakti is impossible. Without Advaita Jnanam, Dvaita Bhakti is incomplete. Suppose you say, will be remaining as a bhakta always to the Lord throughout my life. That bhakti is not complete. You have to come to jnanam to make that bhakti complete. Similarly, suppose you say, I will never go to bhakti at all, but I will learn Advaitam. No, that is also a problem because Advaitam is impossible. The jnanam of Advaitam is impossible without the bhakti towards that Lord and his nature. Okay, so this I have covered figurative meaning and literal meaning. Jivatma reaching Paramatma is only knowing that Paramatma as the subject or experiencer in this body is the Sakshi principle. It is only through the solution of Advaita. What is Advaitam principle says? Advaitam says it is in consciousness you experience everything. So everything, that means what Jiva Jagat Ishvara is superimposed on the Atma. The moment you come to know this, there is no subject object relationship. What is the relationship? The relationship is Adhisthana Mithya Sambandha. Normally, with the help of a body, world, triangular format, you will have subject object relationship. That is how we start. All of us, as junior seekers, we start as I am the subject, and the world is the object. But now, after the study, what should you say? I am the Adhisthana Atma, and the world is Mithya Prapancha. Mithya Prapancha appears, disappears. Appears during the Jagrat and Swapna, disappears in the Sushupti. I have the ability to shake off both Jagrat, Swapna, and the Sushupti Prapancha and remain as myself without any Prapancha. That is what we experience in our sleep state. Sleep state for a jnani. For others, the sleep state is ignorance. But for a jnani, he knows I can exist by shaking off the attributes of the anatma in all the three avasthas and remain as the reality. Then the Advaitin, then what will happen? All the Veda philosophies which depend on traveling is dropped by the Jnani. Advaitam becomes very clear with Upasamkramana discussions. See Shankaracharya's discussion on two topics of Taittiriya Upanishad. One is the Anupravesha in the seventh and Upasamkramanam in the eighth sections of the second chapter are very, very important. He deals with these two topics very, very elaborately because they will clear off all our doubts. Like in Mandukya, the seventh mantra clears all the doubts. So I need not travel to another world for moksha. Moksha is here and now. Okay. That's what he's trying to summarize in another verse here, another commentary. There cannot be any action of reaching. That is what we have seen now. There is no reaching for a Jivatma. Shruti is very clear that the subject object difference is only an ignorance. Annamayam kosha, pranamaya kosha, these are all superimposed on Atma. Okay, so that is what Shankaracharya says, and then here a Purva Paksha comes and says, um, okay, there is a discussion on this. A new Purva Paksha who comes and says about further doshas in understanding this merger between Jivatma and Paramatma, which is called as Upasamkramanam. I will stop here. I will start this discussion next week. Um, and we will continue this. There is still a lot of discussions on the mantra, this particular mantras about different aspects, how Shankaracharya deals with this topic of ignorance. Okay, so I'll explain this paragraph uh, of the new Purva Pakshi who comes and says how to understand Upasamkramanam. That is from this 1194, we will take up next week. Uh, we have a few more discussions on this topic before Shankaracharya closes this topic. But these topics are extremely important. So go through this. It's important to go through this. That's why I'm spending some time in this topic itself, because there are so many slides, and they are interesting if you understand what we are talking about how I should know my real nature. Okay. So I'll close this for today. With this slide, we'll start next week. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachade Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vasishyade Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. I'll see if there is anything in the chat box. Good. There are a lot of questions on avidya. I'm very happy because it's an important topic. It's good that you're spending time thinking about it. Avidya, ignorance, is a function of Maya Shakti, which is a consort of art. Correct. Ignorance is like a blindfolding during the play. Similarly, the Atman created Jiva and blindfolded, immersed in ignorance. Is my understanding correct? See, what you are understanding is that in the final analysis, okay, up to your analysis at this stage is okay. What you are saying, it's okay. But when you go further into study of this ignorance, which we will be doing, which will be doing in the next few weeks, ultimately you'll realize that this entire ignorance is a part of the world. We have to drop this ignorance and then see who I am. So, this way, what happens is that the jiva, which you are saying is blindfolded today, immersed in ignorance, in a way, what you're saying is right. When you look at it from the jiva's angle. But later on, you have to realize this from the Atma. From the Atma angle, the jiva was never created. It is just an appearance, disappears. In this appearance, disappearance, what happens? The jiva realizes his reality. There is no blindfolding. All this is with reference to when you are taking yourself as the jiva. The moment you get the knowledge, I am the Atma, your understanding will be reversed. But currently, your understanding is correct. Okay, so Rama, good. Jivatma, when created for the first time, okay, has no knowledge of the self and world. Uh, it's a journey slowly towards doing karma, accumulating parama. That okay, has to come to a guru who imparts knowledge of self. Is my understanding correct? Okay, yes, your understanding in this is again you have to look at it from where you are today. From where you are today, this understanding is correct. Jivatma understands that I have some ignorance about myself. I don't know what it is, but I have ignorance because I'm suffering. I'm suffering. I think I'm born. I'm going to die. All these thoughts in my mind, I can't get rid of it. The only way I can get rid of the wrong notions in my mind is through Atma Jnana. Only by the study of Atma, which is my real nature, I will be able to drop the ignorance about myself. It is a study. So, your analysis of karma phalam, all this is okay, but at the beginner's level. The moment you come to the Guru and the Guru says, you are not the body, you are the Atma, that is where your first lesson starts. Your first lesson is, I am not the body. Now you have to learn how to say, I am the Atma, I am the consciousness. After you learn that you are the Atma, you will feel, oh my God, I was always this consciousness. How did I miss this? That is the reverse which will happen to you. It is a change in your mind. Your normal life of you will keep going on as it is. That there will be no change. This is a change which will happen to you. When this happens to you, you will realize it. That is why this moksha is a drishta phalam. Drishta phalam means you will know it. You will know when the knowledge sinks in you that I am the Atma. Every day I am dropping my body in the sleep state. Every day that is my experience. But I have never inquired into it. Upanishad makes me to inquire. In the waking state, I am with the body. In the sleep state, I don't have the body experience, but I am there. That I, without the body, is your real state. The Guru banks the student again and again. Whether it is in Taittriya Upanishad or Mandukya Upanishad, Guru says, Drop the five koshas, the five dresses which you are thinking you are wearing, the body dress, the mind dress, the intellect dress, the happiness which comes and goes, that dress. Drop it. Drop it not in the sleep state, drop it in the waking state and say, I am the Atma. That is what is called as moksha. That is what is called as freedom. The Guru tells me, this is this is what you are. Shake off. Just shake off your which you're doing every day. In Prashnopanishad, in the chapter 4, it analyzes the dream state and the sleep state, and it says very clearly what happens to you in the sleep state, what happens to you in the dream state. All the dresses which you wear, you drop, and you just remain as your true self, which is the adhishtanam for the all the prapanchas, waking, dream, sleep, all of them are coming and going. Good. Uh, just keep listening. Then you will understand some of the deeper meanings. Manikandan says, Avidya, okay, before that, Rama, have I answered your question? And you have anything else? You can unmute yourself and speak.
Yes, sir. Yeah, thanks a lot. I understood. Yeah, I understood the error what I'm making. So the only thing is, so we have to come from the other end, like the consciousness end. So I should always think that I am Atman consciousness, but we should not analyze from the body, mind, the world.
Perfect.
From this
Very
side,
good.
we should not.
Very good. Now you got the clue. Excellent. Okay, Manikandan, he is saying if avidya is to be dropped as is mithya, then after jnana nishtha, should the knowledge also be dropped as knowledge is also mithya? Yes, you're right. Knowledge and ignorance both have to be dropped because they are part and parcel of the anatma. That is the conclusion of Shankaracharya. The attribute of knowledge or ignorance, it is an attribute of the intellect. It is an attribute of the anatma mind. Atma is attributeless. So what you have to do, I have to say to myself in the seat of meditation or while listening to the talk itself, you can say, all the ignorance I had about the world, about who I am, is gone. Because that ignorance belongs to anatma mind. This is the spiritual science. This is the spiritual essence. Ignorance belongs to the mind. The ignorance is an attribute of the mind. Whether it is objective ignorance or spiritual ignorance, both the locus is the mind. Okay, what happens to knowledge? See, when it comes to the question of self-knowledge, that is why we are discussing the locus as well as the content of ignorance. When it comes to the content of this ignorance, the content of this ignorance is that I don't know I am Atma. Upanishad helps me to bring this thought in my mind. It glows, it lights up the lamp of knowledge in your mind. In Bhagavad Gita, it clearly says that the Lord lights up the light of knowledge in your mind. The light of knowledge is the light of. I'll give you a simple example. For a jnani, he never says, I go to sleep. He says, the mind has gone to sleep. Mind has woken up, mind is experiencing the world, mind will go to sleep in the night. That is the phenomena of the world. Atma has no Jagrata Avastha, no waking, no dream, no sleep. In Mandukya Upanishad, this is a very important mantra which says Atma never undergoes a waking state because waking state belongs to the body and the mind. Atma is Ajam. Ajam means birthless. Birth belongs to the Sthula Sharira. So if there is no birth, then what happens? The corollary is it will not have death also. Because death also belongs to Sthula Shariram. So the moment you say Atma is birthless, that is what the 20th verse in the second chapter, Bhagavad Gita. Na jayate vriyate va. Lord Krishna tells Arjuna, you have never been born. That means you are unborn Atma. So, coming back to your question, knowledge has to be dropped. Knowledge of what? Knowledge of the ignorance, the knowledge that I am now got the knowledge that I have the knowledge now, that also has to be dropped. You have to say, I am pure consciousness. In consciousness, there is neither knowledge, neither ignorance. It is. That's all. If you stop with I am, that's it. That's it. After that, don't add anything to it. That is what is called as self-knowledge. So, Manikandan, is it clear?
Thank you, Sagarji. In this case, the Atma is self-effulgent. It is self-revealing.
That's correct.
So this
that
knowledge,
is the that's
that
right.
knowledge is only we need to hold only that knowledge. That sense that
that's it. You're right. You have to
okay.
only have that pure knowledge and say, I am that pure self-effulgent Atma. Now, pure Atma can never have an experience. Another important thing you should understand. Not that when you become, you don't start looking and saying that, the Atma. See, for experience, you require mind. For experience, you require mind. Experience means mind is there, reflected consciousness is there, and you have got the prapancha. Either it is sleep state where you have ignorance, or you have knowledge of the world, which is with the help of the sense organs, we experience the world. Any experience means what? Mind and the indriyas, they are always there. But Atma doesn't have indriyas, Atma doesn't have mind, therefore, Atma doesn't have any experience. See, many a time the question comes, what if Atma is self-evident? How come I don't know myself as Atma? That question, you should know how to answer that question. Why I don't know myself if Atma is self-effulgent, self-conscious? How come I don't know I am self-conscious in this deep sleep state? The answer is it is only through knowledge of the Upanishad which lights up, which is a torchlight and shows me you are that Tattvamasi. That's all. That is why Upanishad is a pramana. It takes the torchlight to the deep sleep state and says, wake up. Jiva, now wake up. I will tell you who you are. You are the self-effulgent Atma. That's all. Like you take a torchlight and show to the person, you are seeing not the rope snake, you are seeing the rope all the time. Similarly, you are not the jiva with experiencing this world, but you are the pure Atma in which all these experiences are coming and going. And with that torchlight, then I don't need anything else. I don't need any experience. And that is what is Upanishadic teaching. This entire Panchakosha, how we have to do, how we are supposed to negate or falsify the Panchakoshas. Even when the Panchakoshas are being experienced, your intellect should say, I am the Atma, the substratum for this entire Prapancha. It is what is the Jnani. That is why a Jnani is free. While experiencing the world itself, he will say that the world is only an appearance. I am the consciousness in which the world is appearing and going. It will disappear again in the night. When I go to sleep, again this world will disappear. Again tomorrow morning, again the world will come. This coming and going is only a phenomenon. It is a phenomena of the mind. It is a phenomena of the Maya Shakti. Good.
Thank you.
JP
Thank you, Secretary.
Thank you. When it is said that knowledge is in mind, and on the other occasion it said that knowledge is not able to know through mind but to reveal, kindly explain. Good. This question is it's a very genuine question. Sometimes in the Upanishad, we have statements. We have both the statements in the Upanishad. What are the two statements? One statement says, Manasaiva aptavyam. It comes in Kathopanishad. It says, through the mind only you must know Atma. Then in Taittriya Upanishad and the next ninth Anuvaka, it will say, Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha. In the ninth Anuvaka, we are going to see. That is also a Upanishadic statement. That is what JP is now asking. Sometimes it is said that the mind, through the mind, I have come to know Atma. Sometimes it says I have to drop the mind and know I am the Atma. Now, what you should understand is mind by itself cannot know Atma. Mind requires the knowledge of the Upanishad. Mind, with the help of Upanishadic teaching, will know Atma. That is the way you should understand one statement. That mind will know Atma. Now, how will it know? With the help of supported by Upanishadic statements. The second way is when it says drop the mind and then know Atma. You can't know with the help of mind. As long as the mind is there, you will never know Atma. There, what we should understand? There we should understand the neti concept. That is, drop everything which you are experiencing, including the mind, you drop it and then know who you are. That is the way the Upanishad explains to you, drop even the mind to know the substratum of the mind. Know where is this mind coming from? See, we all live our life. Throughout our life, there are two things which we are doing. One is our sense organs are perceiving the world. That is one transaction which is happening. The second transaction which is happening throughout our life, our waking slate life, that is what is life for all of us. So, sense organs are experiencing the world, that is one part. The second aspect is mind is interacting with the world. All the time it is chattering inside. This is good, that is bad. The mind is the what which keeps on reacting to the world. Now, the first part, that means the sense organ seeing the world, is called as Artha Adhyasa. Artha Adhyasa, this comes in a very high level text called as Vichara Sagara. Artha Adhyasa means you are the Atma. The sense organs brings all the objects as Adhyasa, as a superimposition on the Atma. That is one. The second is Jnana Adhyasa. Jnana Adhyasa means the mind which is reacting to the world. I am facing problems and the mind keeps on, going in circles. That is also called as Adhyasa. It is also called as superimposition. Many a times we don't realize that our mind is a adhyasa. It is a shakti in this body, but it is giving us a lot of delusions and confusions about who I am. So, your question, JP, on this question, whether mind knows the Atma or mind does not know the Atma, both the statements are made, but you should interpret it in this way. Okay? Now you understood? JP,
No,
you have...
that is only creating the confusion always. There's when you say one way its mind is there, then another way you neti and where the mind is there. When mind also bringing every time also in the mind is there.
Correct. But you should note that there is an observer of the mind. Mind is Sakshi Pratyaksham. What sees the mind is Sakshi Chaitanya.
But you always say neti. Again, you drop the mano.
Correct. You drop the mind. When you say you drop the mind, the interpretation is mind is mithya, therefore drop it. That is the interpretation you should take. Next, there are some statements which says through the mind only you can reach the self. There, what you should say, through the mind which is supported by the Shastra, that mind which is supported by the Shastra knows Atma. That is the way to interpret those statements.
Okay.
Okay, so you should know how to interpret both the statements and arrive at the conclusion.
Okay.
Very good. Very deep thought. Okay, Bharat, you are saying it's a good talk. Thank you. Yeah, now there are two people who have raised their hands. I'll go with Shama first. Go ahead, Shama. Shama, would you like to say something? Okay. If not Shama, Shanta, can you
Yes,
go ahead?
yes,
Yeah, Shanta, go ahead.
yeah, okay. I think I muted myself
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much for this beautiful lecture. And I want to confirm whether my path or what my, the little understandings which I'm getting, whether they are steps towards towards Jivan Mukta or understanding this Brahman or that Aham Brahmasmi. Now, I'm able to now read, I feel, okay, that all the objects which we see in the world, I think it was other lecture where we learned that ultimately it is Omkara, right? It resolves in the Omkara, that is the sound.
Yeah.
So all the objects have got Adhishtanam as Omkara, but I've not reached that state where Omkara's Adhishtanam is Paramatma. Okay, I've not yet reached there.
Okay.
That Omkara is still for me, it's still a rope snake for me.
Yeah,
I'm yet not
because
yet reached there.
you're still in the third verse of the Mandukya Upanishad, which is 12 verses are there. You're only in the third verse. You come to the fourth, fifth, sixth. On the seventh verse, you ask whether you have learned.
Okay. Yeah, so that is I sort of the physical world, if I say, I am able to now resolve it into Omkara. That is, I'm able to, because when I say it's a chair, I know it is a sound and therefore it goes there. Today I learned about avidya and vidya, right? And we spoke about at length about this vidya and avidya. And this knowing that I know something and I don't know something, you know, that is also knowledge in a way. But who gives me that knowledge? As you explained, I know Sanskrit, I don't know Japanese, but that knowledge comes from somewhere, that this is there. So the mind, there is something beyond or above the mind which tells. So that something actually uses the mind as an instrument, and intellect analyzes it and tells in the form of thoughts that you know Sanskrit, you don't know Japanese. So in that way, I'm sort of trying, just like how I have objects I have resolved in Omkara. I feel that all this knowledge which we get is ultimately leading towards that Sakshi at the moment, because the Sakshi is telling the mind whether I know something, I don't know something. So is that a right way thinking at the moment? I mean, first step I want to confirm. Is it right to think that way?
Yes, you're right in a way, because this is how Prashno Upanishad describes the nature of the mind.
Yeah, but then going
Because
forward, I still have the intellect left,
no,
because
you must know that mind is both an object
mm,
and also it is an instrument
mm,
in the waking state.
mm,
So when the mind is using, when you use the mind, that is
mm,
an instrument you are using. Who is using
mm,
it? It is the
the
Sakshi, it's
Sakshi. Yeah.
consciousness.
Mm,
So consciousness is using the mind to have the experiences of the world,
mm,
and then it comes to the conclusion that all these experiences are just mithya.
Mithya. But then I've got the third aspect of it, which is my intellect. Okay. Now, I can even come to this point or understanding that yes, the mind, knows, because Sakshi is using it as an instrument to tell this jiva that knows and unknown. But you need the where is intellect fit here? Is as an instrument or as object in this whole triangle? Because when we
It's
say
also
antaka,
another version of a mind only. The
okay.
moment the moment that the mind is oscillating between two thoughts, we call it as mind. The moment the oscillation stops and you determine that it is either this or that and you hold on to it, that is called as intellect.
But would that not be knowledge? Because I have
That is
understood
knowledge.
it,
Either
and
it
that,
is,
yeah.
yeah, that is knowledge, because intellect has got the knowledge, mind doesn't get the knowledge. Mind is always a pendulum.
Mm,
Is it this? Is it that? Is it this? Is it that? Is it this? Is it that? Is Atma eternal or is Atma non-eternal? Am I eternal or am I not eternal? Am I always there or I am just
mm.
a temporary temporary appearance and coming and going?
But now
See,
that we
as
know,
Jiva, I am a
yeah.
temporary appearance and disappearance. As
Mm,
consciousness, I am always
constant.
there,
Yeah.
eternal. So eternal can be referred to either the eternally mind is experiencing the world, or
Mm,
eternally you can say I am the Atma in which the uh,
the
the
world
the
is easy.
the Maya Shakti is playing all the time, which is the world.
Mhm. So, are we going to learn something which will just clarify that this bit of mine? Because
Yes,
I find that that
you
little bit,
will learn it. Yeah, you
yeah.
will. When you do Mandukya Upanishad, there
Mm,
will be the third chapter where this doubt uh, about this ignorance and knowledge, about the locus, about the content of ignorance, it will be very, very clear that it is all happening only in the mind. It doesn't happen at the Atma level. At the Atma level, it is always self effulgent, always self conscious. I am, I am, I am. That is the ultimate teaching of all the Upanishads.
no, that
The
I'm
moment
able
you
to get
realize
it.
I am and stop, and say, I am, and stop. I am the
Mm.
consciousness, I will stop, you know?
Mm, mm. So no, that bit, I mean, that example which you gave about, knowing the language and not knowing a language, that clearly tells me that I'm not the mind anymore. Because
Correct. It's
obviously,
an
how do I
instrument.
know otherwise,
Yes.
right? So
There is
I have,
something which there is something when you say I know Sanskrit, I don't know Sanskrit, I don't know Japanese, or I know Japanese, it is only a vritti. It is only a thought.
mm,
And this thought will come and it will go away also. It is there momentary.
mm,
But the thought is jadam. Thought is
okay,
subtle, it is subtle body only. It is only made up of panchabhutas.
Panchabhutas.
But what is seeing it is a sentient consciousness principle. And that you own it and say, I am the consciousness. I am the consciousness which is always an experiencer. It never goes out and becomes unconscious. Mind becomes jadam in sleep state. Mind doesn't experience the world. See, this comes in Prashnopanishad, chapter 4 of Prashnopanishad, the fifth verse, where it goes into very big depths about who is the experiencer of this world. Is it the Atma which experiences, or is it the mind which experiences? Is it the Karanams which experience the world? There, the Shankaracharya brings out a very beautiful analysis and says, whenever you experience anything, it is always with the help of Karanams.
Karan,
Jnana Indriyas and
right.
Karma
Karma
Indriyas,
India. So
they
it's
constitute Vyavahara.
mm,
Vyavahara means transactions.
mm,
Anytime there is transactions, your Indriyams are involved. What happens in sleep state? The student asks the teacher, then the teacher says, in the sleep state, your karanams are absent.
mm,
Therefore, you don't experience the world. That state is called as unmanifest state. Not that the world is absent.
yeah.
World is in potential form in the sleep state in your mind.
Mm,
Again, the morning, again from the mind, again the karanams are open, again you see the world. I see my husband, I see my children, I see the sun, I see the stars, I see the whole world transacted during the day. I go to the office, I work, all that happens. Again, in the night, what happens? The karanams, the sense organs, they withdraw from the world. Where do they withdraw? They all withdraw to the mind. And where does the mind withdraw in sleep? It withdraws to the heart.
Oh, heart. Okay.
Mind withdraws to the heart. It rests in the Atma. So the whole world is experienced. It is manifest, unmanifest for the jiva only to fulfill his prarabdha karma and nothing else. That jiva which is experiencing with help of this Upanishadic knowledge realizes I am that Atma, I am that pure consciousness. The moment that mind turns inward, what happens is it suddenly realizes that is because Atma is self-effulgent. The mind drops itself and it only can shine, it can only know the knowledge. The knowledge is what? The knowledge is the understanding that everything is ultimately nothing but Sakshi Chaitanya, which is what you are saying. In a very roundabout way, you said everything is Sakshi, which is what
Yeah.
Upanishadic, Prashna Upanishad very beautifully summarizes this discussion and says, the world exists in your mind. When the mind stops working, the indriyam stop working, and you don't experience the world. World is only a mithya. It appears, disappears. What is satyam is sakshi. For any mithya, you must have sakshi. You must have substratum. You
Substratum.
must
Yes.
have the adhishtanam.
Yeah. So that is why I said that, I have to still move
Yeah,
from
this is the
Omkara to
knowledge.
Paramatma. So that is
Correct.
that
Yes.
journey is remaining to understand
Good. Very good.
and get
I'm
to,
very
yeah.
glad you're walking the path very, very fast. You're jumping,
Hopefully.
you're leaping into the unknown.
Oh, that's so hope to get
Okay.
soon. Yes, Shama
Shama,
is.
are you still there? Have I finished with you, Shanta?
Hello.
Yes, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you very
okay.
much.
Yeah, Shama, go ahead.
Hello, Shekharji. Hari Om. As usual, absolutely brilliant. I loved every word of your talk. And you very beautifully explained actually as to all this, the Vidya, the locus of all of this is really located in the Sakshi protection, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah. And, or the Antakaranam. So it's all the business of the Antakaranam.
that's
Further,
correct.
you've also explained, so that every Jivatma is therefore actually going through, just to say that it is two-dimensional journey only because the Jivatma's lifespan, there is a time span, isn't it? For the
Correct.
Jivatma. Yeah. So therefore, we would sort of think of it as a two-dimensional journey. One is an outer projected one, and the other one is the inner internal one. And the outer projected one is basically, you said, is the Artha Dhyasa. Yeah.
Correct.
Which you said it is dealt in Vichar Sagra, which hopefully you will do it someday, or have you done it already?
No. I've not done it. Hopefully, I'll do it someday.
Okay.
See,
And the inner,
these are the two words which are used in
very
Vichara
beautiful
Saga.
words.
Arthadhyasa, Jnanadhyasa.
Yeah.
Arthadhyasa because of the sense organs, Jnanadhyasa because of the mind. The student, he just listens to this and says, I have understood the Taittriya Bashyam. I have understood the teacher in Vichara Sagara, and I am very clear that I am the consciousness in which there is no adhyasa. I am the pure Satyam and eternal Chaitanya. I have no
And the
birth.
desire for the Jnana Adhyasa, the desire for the Jnana Adhyasa or the Mumukshutvam
Yes,
is in proportion to how much the mind is purified. You want to know only that and
that's
not the
correct.
rest.
Yes. You don't
Yeah.
want anything except that pure consciousness which you want to know.
However, as long as there should not be a war or a battle between, as long as something which is pure arthadhyasa, how is the climate's made and what is the history of the world, what is the philosophy, that cannot be in conflict. That cannot be
No,
in
not at all.
conflict.
See, the anatma is never in conflict with atma.
Yeah, this is the
Because
question.
it is lower nature.
Hmm.
Like the dream world is never in conflict with the waker. It can
Yeah.
exist. It exists along with the waker, it exists. Similarly, the waker's world exists together with the Atma.
And
There
the
is no
only point
conflict.
of and the only point of worry would be if you find at a certain stage that the anatma or the arthadhyasa is having a bit too overwhelmingly large proportion of your mind, then you know that you have overstepped your balance because your
That's correct.
primary goal is
Yes.
obviously, the
Yeah.
moksha part of it. So that's was one clarification. And the so all this is happening in Antakarana, and is it in the Anandamaya Kosha?
No, Anandamaya Kosha is the ultimate, just before the sleep state. That is what is called as
Because the
Anandamaya.
knower principle, the bhokta knower, all that is in.
That is the at the intellectual level. You see, the intellect is a karta and a bhokta.
Yeah.
So the as a bhokta, you have three levels:
Mm-hmm.
priya, moda, pramoda.
Pramoda.
Okay. But this is all happening at the Vyavaharika level. This is all happening at the Vyavaharika, means at the Anatma level. At
Yeah,
the
but it is
Atma
in
level,
the located in the Anandamaya Kosha.
no, you have to understand what is that Anandamaya Kosha. Anandamaya Kosha is only the happiness. It is a vritti which tells you, I am happy. That is what is called as Anandamaya Kosha.
Okay.
This Anandamaya Kosha, it can be experienced even in the sleep state. In the sleep state, what happens is you get a reflection of that Atma in the mind
Yeah.
and in the Antakarana. And you say, I am experiencing happiness without any objects in the world.
Yeah.
There is no objects in the sleep state, but still you feel happy to have gone to sleep, rested, and again you come back in the morning.
So even in the Jagrat state, I mean, just to visualize that, like somebody like yourself, where you have kind of sorted out all your delusion and conflicts and everything, then you can be more or less in a jnani state, which is then the phala, the phalam will be you're in happy state, isn't it? Ananda state.
That's what is a jnani. He is always happy. He says whether the objects are there or not, I am always the nature, because he has identified. You see, the most important thing you should remember is the difference between a jnani and ajnani is the knowledge of the Upanishad which the jnani has. Upanishad takes me away from this entire prapanchas, all the three worlds of Jagrat, Swapna, and Sushupti. The Upanishad teaches me how to drop it.
Yeah. So the lower bird of the Mundaka Upanishad has got higher and higher onto the branches till it is actually close to the one who is on the highest.
Yes.
Yeah. And which actually in reality they are not two, they're only one.
We are only one because the entire lower world is only mithya. It only is dependent on the Atma. It is dependent on the consciousness for its existence.
Yeah.
See, suppose I'll just tell you, suppose you say, I am the pure consciousness, and every day when I get up in the morning, I am lending that consciousness to the world to experience. The world doesn't have consciousness. World is inner. You see, world is inner. It doesn't know itself. The mountain doesn't know itself. The wall doesn't know itself. But who knows the wall? Who knows the mountain? It is I who know the mountain. So I am the one who is lending that existence to the mountain and say the mountain exists. So who is that I which lends that existence? It is that pure Atma.
Absolutely.
That pure Atma is independent. It can remain like in sleep state. I alone am. There is no world, there is no body, there is no sense organs, there is no my son, my daughter, my husband. All of them are not there, but I am there. Who is that I? That I is the Atma.
Yeah.
Don't miss this point. This point you must be very clear. I, without all these vestures, is the Atma. That is why Taittriya Upanishad is very important to study. Drop all the Panchakoshas, ask the question, who am I? Am I the Jivatma or am I the Paramatma, which is projecting this universe?
Yeah.
At that level only you can say Aikyam. There is oneness. Not when you look at the body, you and I are different.
Yeah.
They are not the same. But only when you look at it from the consciousness level, you become one with Paramatma.
Yeah.
Because you see, in that state of Atma, there is no difference at all. There is no division between
this and that.
This and that goes away. This and that comes only with adhyasa, only when the mind starts operating.
Mhm. Yeah, no, it's very, very delightful. Even the journey is very delightful.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you
Shama.
so much, Shekharji. Thank you
You.
for being there. Thank you.
Okay. So I think if there are no other questions, we'll close for today and then we'll continue next week. Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste,
Namaste.
Shekharji. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.